nation. So I am so thrilled to introduce President Bill Clinton and the next president of our United States, Hillary Clinton.
But I thank you all. I've watched all these debates, and I think I'm going to vote for Hillary.
Well, I'm just so pleased to be here in Story County for this Democratic gathering. ISIS is very agile and quite adept at using the internet to propagandize, to recruit, even train, incite. And we have to be equally so, to stand up for our values, to stand up for who we are as a people. Attacking Paris, the city of light, reminds us that there is no middle ground in going after these terrorists. I will work every day as your president to build a stronger, safer, fairer, and more prosperous America, because if we are not strong at home and taking care of our own people, we cannot do what we need to be doing to lead the world. I see it as going hand in hand. I am running to make our country and our economy work for everyone, to make sure that we are true to our values, and that we enter the future with confidence and optimism, which I think is well-deserved and merited. Hardworking, middle-class families need a raise, not a tax increase. And I was the only one on the debate stage last night who would commit to doing everything I can to raising your wages, not your taxes. The super wealthy and corporations need to pay more, not you. That is a defining difference in this primary. And why? Because I have seen how hard Americans have worked to recover from the Great Recession. I've said this many times before as I have traveled across Iowa. I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for saving our economy from falling into a great depression. George W. Bush was the first president in American history who did not raise taxes to fight wars, to rebuild America, to deal with the consequences of 9/11. Then they took their eyes off the financial markets and the mortgage markets, which I warned about. Ancient history, I ran an ad in the 07-08 campaign here in Iowa warning about the coming mortgage crisis. They paid no attention. And you know what happened. So the president not only had to save the economy, he saved the auto industry, began the crackdown on Wall Street with Dodd-Frank, and passed the Affordable Care Act. I think that's a pretty impressive record. We're not going back, folks. We're not going back to the insurance companies calling the shots, denying people affordable care because they have a pre-existing condition, charging women more than men for their insurance. What we are going to do is take on the challenges to improve the Affordable Care Act. We're going to work together to get out-of-pocket costs down, to get more competition in the insurance market, to tackle the rising costs of prescription drugs. And we should be working together to build on the Affordable Care Act, not suggesting we scrap it and start over again. And one thing we should absolutely not do is turn over your health care to Terry Branstad and other you know what they say, oh, I'm not a scientist. And I always say in response, go talk to a scientist and actually listen to a scientist. But what they're turning their backs on is American ingenuity. The way we can roll up our sleeves and deal with problems. You had Tom Vilsack as your governor, and he saw the promise of wind. And now you get a third of your electricity from wind power in this state. And it is a rebuke to anybody who says we can't do it. It's an economic opportunity. That's why I've set two big goals. To fight climate change. Number one, by the end of my first term, we will have 500 million more solar panels installed. And by the end of my second, we will have enough clean energy to power every home in America. Because there was great resistance by our Chinese and Indian and other friends who basically made the argument, climate change is your responsibility, advanced economies. You can't expect us to do anything different than what we're doing. We're trying to grow and give our people opportunities, lift hundreds of millions of them out of poverty. And the president and I were making the case, look, we want to give you that chance to develop, but you've got to be part of the solution because your development so far is contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. Well, we were supposed to meet with them, but we couldn't find them. We kept calling the Chinese, and we kept being told they're on the way to the airport. This went on for hours. Copenhagen is not that big. The airport wasn't that far. So I looked at the president and I said, you know, there's something not adding up here. We sent out scouts throughout this huge convention center. See if you can find them. And then we got word back. They're meeting secretly in the far corner of the conference center. I looked at the president, he looked at me, and off we went. You know, his legs are a lot longer than mine, so, you know, I was hustling. So we go literally on what we could call a footcade, and we get to these stairs, and we start to climb them, and the Chinese security people are waving at us and, you know, telling us, no, no, and the President of the United States, Secretary of State, they're trying to prevent us from climbing these stairs. So we just kept coming. And then they tried to send us the opposite direction of where the meeting was. But our scouts said, no, go that way. So we went that way. And then they barred the door. And the president just smiled and walked through. And then they put their arms up again. So I smiled and I ducked under. We got into the room. And there they were. You know, the Prime Minister of India, the Prime Minister of China, the President of Brazil, the President of South Africa. Our president says, we've been looking for you. And then we pulled up chairs, uninvited, and sat down. At the end of that, it was the first time the Chinese agreed that yes, they had to start doing something about carbon. And the steps that have been taken since, and the president's executive actions like the Clean Power Plan, puts us in a good position to lead the fight that we must make against climate change right now, immediately, with urgency. Proposing like a national infrastructure bank. I want to do more to help small business, but I'll tell you, one of the fastest, quickest ways we can raise incomes in America is equal pay for equal work for women who work hard and don't get their dues. This is a huge part of my growth strategy. It's not just a women's issue, although I admit it is. I had a little girl at a town hall in Nevada, raise her hand, I called on her. She stood up and she said, if you're the girl president, will you get paid the same as the boy president? I have to admit, I thought about that for a few seconds. I said, yeah, I think so. It's time to guarantee equal pay once and for all, and you will not hear any of that coming from the Republicans. You know, I really want us to understand there may be differences among the three of us who were on that stage last night, but our differences pale compared to what we believe, what we stand for, in fact, what we're arguing about. How do we get health care for everybody the best way? How do we get college that's affordable for everybody? We're having real substantive debates and differences. And you listen to the Republicans, they want to rip up our progress that we've made and just shred it, throw it away, and deny that we have to do more to build our economy and our country. Now, when I think about what I want to do on the economy, on healthcare, on education, I am absolutely committed to making this a reality in the lives of the people of our country. But at the same time, I listen to the Republicans and I know they want to turn the clock back on human rights, on civil rights, on women's rights, on gay rights, on voting rights, and we can't let that happen. We have to stand firmly against them. So yes, I am for a woman's right to choose, and I will defend Planned Parenthood against these partisan, unfair attacks. Yes, I am for marriage equality, and I will be sure that it is enforced, and I will stand up against discrimination. It's wrong. You get married on Saturday and get fired on Monday. We've got to make sure we end discrimination against the LGBT community. Debate was over in the 1960s. And here we are fighting rearguard actions against Republican governors and state legislatures and even the Congress. What part of democracy do they not like? Why are they so fearful? We have got to have automatic registration for 18-year-olds. We have to enforce the right to vote. And we have to call out what we see as these efforts to turn the clock back. We just celebrated Veterans Day last week. We're going to defend, but improve and fix the VA, but we're not going to let the Republicans privatize it and take away that guarantee from our vets. And I intend to take on and stand against the gun lobby in order to work toward gun safety measures that will help us end this scourge, this epidemic of gun violence. I said last night, 33,000 people a year are killed by guns in America. Homicides, suicides, tragic, avoidable accidents. Between our first debate in Las Vegas and our debate last night, nearly 3,000 people have been killed by guns. 21 mass shootings, including one in Des Moines last weekend. 3 people killed. 200 children. We cannot let this continue. Universal background checks, close the gun show loophole, close the online loophole, close what's called the Charleston loophole, where you get the gun within 3 business days, whether you should have it or not. And we must reverse the blanket immunity that gun makers and sellers have been given by the Congress. It is wrong. I need your help. I'm asking you to caucus for me. I'm asking you to support me in the 2016 election, where we will keep Iowa blue. And I'm asking you to be my partner to make the changes that this country deserves to have for our children and our future. Thank you all very much.
Is our Hartford County Chair. Bob C. was the Senate Chair. Sheldon Spencer was the County Liaison. Andy Kane, you saw up here earlier, was doing a great job making sure that everybody is heard and that the press is here. And Marcia Thompson was our Secretary. We had a great group of people who called to make sure that we had a good turnout today.
Texas, and all over.
How are you?
Thank you, guys. Nice to meet you. Where am I looking? Right here?
Perfect. Thank
Got
you
it.
so much.
Thank you all. So glad to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Nice to see you.
And I'm out there giving